Ukraine hosts the first ever EU foreign ministers meeting outside the bloc and in a country at war as delegates discuss Europe's existential threat.
Slovakia's president says she'll ask Smer party leader Robert Fico, who's vowed to end military aid to Ukraine, to form a government.
In a move dismissed as too little too late by Armenians, a United Nations team has arrived in Azerbaijan-controlled Nagorno-Karabakh. In an historic move by Pope Francis, a 3-week Vatican synod is throwing open its doors to women as well as men and to both lay people and clergy. Ukraine's Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba hosting an historic meeting of EU foreign ministers, the first ever outside the bloc and in a country at war. EU Foreign Affairs Chief Josep Borrell is keen to reinforce a sense of solidarity and to underline the threat.
Maybe it's not being seen like this for everybody around the world, but for us, Europeans, allow me to repeat it, it's an existential threat. And that's why we have to continue supporting them and discussing with our American allies and friends for them to continue supporting them.
Ukraine is set to be the only item on the agenda at the summit, which for security reasons was only announced at the last minute.
Slovakia's president says she'll ask former Prime Minister Robert Fico to form a government after his populist Smer party won the most votes in Saturday's parliamentary elections. Fico campaigned on a promise to end military aid to Ukraine.
Ľudia na Slovensku majú väčšie problémy ako je Ukrajina. To je všetko, čo môžem povedať v tomto okamihu. My si myslíme, že Ukrajina je obrovská tragédia pre všetkých. Aj na pôde Európskej únie, aby sa čo najrýchlejšie pristúpilo k mierovým rokovaniam.
Smer's potential coalition partners include the moderate leftist Voice Party and the pro-Russian Slovak Nationalist Party.
Whatever is the composition, is not going to have the constitutional majority. He cannot change the constitution, and he cannot change all the institutions he would like to.
Tam Európska únia nás jednoducho do nejakých extrémnych výkyvov nepustí, takže ja si myslím, že tá zahraničná orientácia ostane tak, ako je. A nejaké drobnosti sa možno zmenia, ale...
But Fico's critics worry his return to power is another sign of Central Europe's shift away from liberal democracy.
After Sunday morning's suicide bomb attack in Ankara, retribution from Turkey was swift, with 20 airstrikes on PKK or Kurdistan Workers' Party targets in northern Iraq. A group linked to the PKK had said it was behind the bombing. Hours later in Parliament, a tough and distinctly unilateral message from Turkey's president.
Türkiye olarak 60 yıldır kapısında bekletildiğimiz Avrupa Birliği'nden herhangi bir beklentimiz yok. Şayet bize karşı örtülü bir yaptırım gibi kullandıkları vize dayatması başta olmak üzere haksızlıklarından geri dönerlerse kendi yanlışlarını düzeltmiş olurlar.
The attack in Ankara left 2 police officers injured and 2 attackers dead and prompted tight security on the Turkish capital's streets. A United Nations delegation has arrived in Nagorno-Karabakh, just as almost all the 120,000 ethnic Armenians have fled, with Azerbaijan's forces seizing control. It's the first UN visit for 3 decades due to, it said, geopolitical tensions. Armenians dismissed the UN gesture as too little, too late.
I left in Karabakh our houses and all our life. Maybe we go to Europe, but I don't know. Maybe I am last Armenian.
A spokesman for the enclave's emergency services said remaining civilians could be counted on one hand. In Armenia, emergency medical teams from the World Health Organization have been helping to treat burns cases, victims from the enclave of last week's explosion at a petrol station. In France, there were demonstrations against Azerbaijan's seizure of Nagorno-Karabakh in several cities.
Trahisseur, quand elle décide d'acheter aux Azéris le gaz qu'elle ne peut plus acheter en Russie, nous savons que la Russie est derrière cette manipulation.
French Foreign Minister Catherine Colonna is set to travel to Armenia on Tuesday.
The Spanish city of Murcia went into 3 days of mourning on Sunday after at least 13 people died in a nightclub fire. Officials fear the number could rise as several people are still reported missing. The fire started around 6 a.m. in the Teatra nightclub and quickly spread through the venue. It's not yet clear what caused it. The police and the emergency services tried to prevent the whole building from collapsing. They're still trying to locate the victims' bodies and identify them.
Mourners in Moscow laid flowers on Sunday at a memorial for the former head of the Vagner private mercenary group, Yevgeny Prigozhin. They were marking 40 days since his death, the time when, according to Orthodox tradition, the soul makes its final journey to heaven or hell. Prigozhin died alongside 9 other people when a plane flying from Moscow to St. Petersburg crashed on August 23rd. Some supporters waved black Wagner flags, sporting the motto, "Blood, Honour, Fatherland, Courage."
9 people were confirmed dead and at least 50 injured when a church roof collapsed during mass and baptism ceremonies in northern Mexico. 3 children were among the dead. 100 people were in the building, with 30 initially reported trapped beneath the rubble. As sniffer dogs helped the search for survivors, investigators were trying to work out what caused the roof fall. Proffering the scarlet cap to 21 new cardinals last month, Pope Francis officiating at an ancient ceremony while also apparently ushering in change for the Catholic Church. For the first time, the Pope's inviting women and lay people to a 3-week-long synod at the Vatican this week.
There are 700 million Catholic women around the world, and so it's time that the Church actually listened to them. And what we've heard throughout the synodal process is that they want to serve the Church. Women want to be equal.
Out of 464 synod goers, there will be just 54 women, and they want the Church to do more than pay lip service to them.
They want to be given better positions of leadership. They want their voices to be heard, not just towards decision-making, but also during decision-making. Women want to be part of that.
They may face an uphill struggle against centuries of male-dominated tradition.
You need both a change of culture, of mindset. It's about attitude, education, and it's not easy.
Pope Francis has also invited lay people, seemingly opening up debate to a broader church beyond the ranks of the clergy.
Adi grew up in this house in Groningen, but because of earthquakes, it is no longer safe to live.
Ja, scheuren in de muur buiten en scheuren in de muur binnen.
The earthquakes are caused by the extraction of gas from the Groningen gas field, the largest one in Europe. Thousands of residents have struggled to get compensation.
Er is gezegd, er moet verstevigd worden. En dus daar gaan ze nou straks mee aan de gang. Daar zouden ze al heel lang mee aan de gang. Maar de procedures zijn allemaal zo lang en zo ingewikkeld en zo geldverslindend ook. Terwijl dat het geld wat eigenlijk naar de huizen moet, of naar de mensen moet, ja, dat duurt allemaal heel lang.
The field's riches laid the foundation for the Dutch welfare state.
The discovery of the Groningen gas field was really important to the Dutch economy because it enabled us to make annual revenues of about 15 billion euros. in the beginning. So it was a huge contribution to the Dutch economy, and also the Dutch state had a major share in these revenues. About 80% of these revenues went to the Dutch state, to the Dutch society.
The first earthquake hit in 1986. In 2012, a 3.6 scale earthquake caused massive damage, and public sentiment started to shift. A parliamentary inquiry earlier this year found that the government had placed too much importance on gas extraction. On the 1st of October, the Groningen gas field will be closed. Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte visited affected residents last Friday.
It's important because we know there is a direct link between the earthquakes and gas extraction, and luckily we are able to do without the Groningen gas field. So that's why it is crucial to close this, because of the safety of people.
In case of an exceptionally cold winter, the field could be tapped one last time. Behind me you can see a gas installation that is now partially dismantled. There's many of these dotted around the Groningen countryside atop of this largest onshore gas field in Europe. Now the gas extraction will end, but the earthquakes it has caused will continue for many decades to come. This is Fernand van Tetz reporting for Euronews, Groningen.
Team Europe produced a stunning performance to regain the Ryder Cup in Rome on Sunday. With the hosts needing 4 points from the final day's singles matches, Tommy Fleetwood won the 11th game to secure the 44th edition against the US. Europe dominated the events with strong performances by the likes of Jon Rahm, Victor Oyland and Rory McIlroy. Captain Luke Donald's strategic decisions paid off, with Europe establishing an early lead and never looking back, en route to a much-needed win 2 years after losing heavily at Whistling Straits.